What if the story you learned about human history was only part of the truth? What if hidden inside your blood there existed a genetic archive, a biological record older than civilization itself? Not a myth, not speculation, but a real genetic signature that challenges how we understand human migration, survival, and ancestry. In the mid-20th century, scientists studying human blood noticed something strange. A protein that most people have was completely absent in a significant portion of the global population. This absence became known as Rh-negative blood. At first, it seemed like a minor medical detail. But the deeper scientists looked, the more unsettling the questions became. Why would a genetic trait that creates serious reproductive risks persist for tens of thousands of years? And why does it appear in specific populations, spread across continents, yet nearly vanish in others? What if this missing protein isn't a flaw at all, but an ancient genetic marker? A trace left behind by early humans who survived climate collapse, pandemics, and near-extinction events. Today, we follow this genetic signal across time and geography to uncover a hidden chapter of human DNA history. The first clue, a people out of time. Our journey begins in Western Europe, in a mountainous region straddling Spain and France. The Basque people. For centuries, anthropologists struggled to explain them. Their language is unrelated to any other on Earth. Their culture defies simple classification. But their DNA is even more extraordinary. While roughly 15% of the global population is Rh-negative, among the Basque, that number reaches over 30%, the highest concentration anywhere on Earth. Genetic studies show that Basque DNA remained remarkably stable for nearly 40,000 years, long before farming, before writing, before the last ice age reshaped Europe. They are not simply Europeans. They are descendants of some of Europe's earliest modern humans, people who took refuge in these mountains as glaciers swallowed the continent. Harvard geneticist David Reich has described the Basque as a living genetic time capsule from pre-agricultural Europe, when farming spread across the continent 7,000 years ago. It transformed nearly every population, but the Basque remained largely unchanged. Confirmation from ice. In 1991, an extraordinary discovery strengthened this theory. A frozen body emerged from alpine ice. A man who lived over 5,000 years ago, Otzi the Iceman. When scientists analyzed his DNA, they found striking similarities to modern Basque populations. While Europe reshaped itself through waves of migration, some genetic lineages endured, quietly preserved in isolation. But the Basque are not alone. A global pattern emerges. High concentrations of Rh-negative blood appear in other isolated groups. Among Berber populations in North Africa, certain Jewish communities, remote Atlantic islands, like the Outer Hebrides. These distributions are not random. They form a pattern, one that follows ancient coastlines and maritime routes that traditional history claims were impossible for prehistoric humans. This doesn't point to lost civilizations of legend, but it does point to something real. During the end of the last ice age, sea levels rose more than 120 meters. Entire coastlines vanished. Marine archaeology confirms that humans once lived in lands now buried beneath the ocean. Rh-negative blood may be a genetic breadcrumb trail left by coastal populations who adapted early, traveled by water, and survived environmental collapse. The evolutionary paradox. But this raises a serious biological problem. Rh-negative blood should not exist. In Rh-negative mothers carrying Rh-positive babies, the immune system can attack the fetus. Without modern medicine, this often leads to pregnancy loss, especially in later pregnancies, before medical treatments were developed. This incompatibility caused countless infant deaths. From an evolutionary standpoint, such a trait should have been eliminated, yet it survived. Genetic analysis shows the Rh-negative trait comes from the deletion of the RhD gene, a mutation that appeared roughly 25,000 to 35,000 years ago, during the harshest periods of the Ice Age. Evolutionary geneticist Matteo Fumagalli explains, any trait that reduces reproductive success must offer a powerful survival advantage to persist. So, what was that advantage? Survival against invisible enemies. The answer may lie in disease. Certain parasites and pathogens interact differently with Rh-negative blood. Studies suggest reduced susceptibility to infections like toxoplasmosis, a parasite that has shaped human behavior and survival. During history's deadliest pandemics, this advantage may have been decisive. The Black Death killed up to 60% of Europe's population. Yet some regions, particularly areas with higher Rh-negative frequencies, experienced lower mortality rates. The bacterium responsible for plague relies on specific cellular binding mechanisms. In Rh-negative individuals, those mechanisms may be altered. In small, isolated Ice Age populations, even a modest survival advantage could mean the difference between extinction and survival, a map that shouldn't exist. When scientists map Rh-negative blood globally, something strange appears. High frequencies in Western Europe, moderate levels in North Africa and Western Asia, and near disappearance in East Asia, Australia, and most indigenous American populations. This distribution doesn't align neatly with standard migration models. It suggests periods of deep isolation or forgotten routes of movement before recorded history. Some populations, like the Blackfoot and Blood tribes, show unexplained Rh-negative frequencies far above surrounding groups. Not proof of lost civilizations, but evidence that human movement was more complex than our maps suggest. Bloodlines and power. Throughout history, Rh-negative blood appears disproportionately in royal and elite families. European nobility famously guarded bloodlines through generations of selective marriage. Ancient DNA analysis of royal mummies has revealed unexpected genetic markers consistent with Rh-negative traits. This wasn't divine selection. It was biology. Families with disease resistance and survival advantages were more likely to persist, inherit power, and shape history. Modern echoes of an ancient trait. Today, over 100 million people carry this genetic legacy. Research links Rh-negative blood to subtle differences in immune response and sensory processing. Not supernatural abilities, but small variations that once mattered deeply in survival environments. Despite myths and conspiracy theories, Rh-negative blood is not alien. It is human, deeply human, a reminder of how fragile and resilient our species has always been. What this really means: Rh-negative blood doesn't rewrite human history. It completes it. It tells us that survival didn't belong to the strongest, the largest, or the most advanced. It belonged to those who adapted quietly, endured isolation, and carried their genetic stories forward. When the world changed around them, your blood, whatever type it may be, carries similar echoes of journeys, of loss, of survival. Human history is not written only in stone or text. It is written in DNA, and some of its most important chapters are still hidden inside us. Like, subscribe, and join us as we uncover the genetic stories that connect us across time.